walls I built, well, baby, they're tumbling down. And they didn't even put up a fight, they didn't even make a sound. I found a way to let you in, but I never really had a doubt. Standing in the light of your halo, I got my angel now. It's like I've been awakened, every rule I had you breaking. It's the risk that I'm taking, I ain't never gonna shut you out. Everywhere I'm looking now, I'm surrounded by your rays. Baby, I can see your halo, you know you're my saving grace. You're everything I need and more, it's written all over your face. Baby, I can feel your halo, pray it won't fade away. I can see your halo, I can feel your halo, I can see your halo, I can see your halo, I can feel your halo, I can see your halo.
imagination and skepticism both. We will not be afraid to speculate, but we will be careful to distinguish speculation from fact. The cosmos is full beyond measure of elegant truths, of exquisite interrelationships, of the awesome machinery of nature. The surface of the Earth is the shore of the cosmic ocean. On the shore, we've learned most of what we know. Recently, we've waded a little way out, maybe ankle deep, and the water seems inviting. Some part of our being knows this is where we came from. We long to return. And we can, because the cosmos is also within us. We're made of stars. We are a way for the cosmos to know itself.
All right. This is Dwelling of Duels. Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Evil Sonic. Joining me tonight is our very special guest for a very special event, JMR, aka Jeff. Jeff,
how's it going, everybody?
Is going to show us some tips and tricks on taking video game soundtracks and turning them into musical instrument digital interface format, otherwise known as MIDI. I could sit here and explain all the technical details of how this computer magic takes place because I totally understand it and I definitely know how machines work. But because I'm such a gracious host, I'm actually going to turn it over to my good friend Jeff. Hey Jeff, you're very tall. How are you doing tonight?
Not too bad. You're so humble, Mike.
So, we're here to learn about how we can cheat at Dwelling of Duels. Is that right?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, this is what I've been doing all along, and you see how well my entries do.
I think very early on in my DoD experience, somebody told me that how you get the transcription of it is just a data point. The real important stuff is, what you do with the arrangement. So I have very, very shamelessly begged, borrowed, and stolen whatever I can from the internet in terms of using MIDIs, in terms of, doing things like telesplit, where I take the channels of audio from the OSTs and I drop them in the DAW and turn that into a MIDI. And because I'm taking those extra steps, I can pat myself on the back and just say to myself, you're putting in the effort. And I feel good about that. So there is just a very quick disclaimer. There is nothing wrong with using MIDI or transcription tools or anything like that when you're working on your DoD tracks. The key thing is to make the arrangement yours, but how you capture, how you sort of research you that original source tune. I can speak for myself. I'm not good at all in terms of playing by ear. I can kind of pick up the pitch, but if you ask me to figure out a rhythm, I would literally rather play in traffic. I don't know how to do it unless I can see it on my screen and sort of snap it into place with a 4/4 beat. If you're trying to make me learn something that's not 4/4,
no, you're out of luck.
I can't even. But whenever I'm doing a project with anybody, I always ask for a MIDI, just because it's helpful to know we're all working from the same thing.
It's a convenient starting point, right?
Exactly.
This is not meant to be a cheat or anything like that. This is not meant to be how to make a DoD entry. This is not like a production tutorial. This is establishing a baseline for an arrangement. This is getting your puzzle pieces laid out nicely after you've taken them out of the box. Putting them together is still your responsibility for arranging for DoD, but this is just identifying the pieces and just like I said, building up a starting point. This is arming yourself to do your entry.
You just won the internet with that analogy, I gotta say. That you're taking the puzzle pieces, you still have to put it together yourself.
Exactly. This is taking all the puzzle pieces and flipping them over and putting all the corner pieces and edge pieces aside, kind of thing. This is this process. This is what I'm trying to show off with this. So yeah, I think we've all kind of been there. I know for the longest time I would do the same thing where I would, just pilfer the internet looking for, MIDI files, sheet music, things like that people have already put together that I could kind of use as my starting point. It wasn't until I started doing stuff with martial art and it was actually converting my own tunes to MIDI that I really dived into this process. I'll explain why I had to do that or what I was doing with that in a minute. But yeah, over the past couple of years, I kind of learned a lot about reverse engineering some of these music formats, some of the game data that we all that drives the tunes that we know and love. And I thought I would share some of the tools that I've found, and one that I've created myself, actually. Not a world premiere, but it practically is. So yeah. But before we get into that, I do want to give like a bit of a primer, I guess, on VGM formats themselves. So will you indulge me in that?
God, I would gladly indulge you in that.
All right. So yeah, let's switch over to my sources here. So I've got a little quick presentation that I've put together where I wanted to give some analogies, some more good analogies, hopefully, about how VGM formats generally work, and how video game music on classic hardware generally works. So each game will have its music data. First of all, point disclaimer, I want to make sure I cover this point. This really only applies to sequenced music where the instruments and samples and the notation are stored separately in the game and kind of combined together in real time as you play the game. Most of what I'm talking about doesn't really apply to streaming music, your CD playback, your OGG files playing back. This is strictly streaming music. So yeah, each game will store its music data in its own unique format, and part of the game's code will be a playback engine, which converts that data in real time to inputs to the sound chip. So the best analogy I could think of in terms of real instruments would be a kind of like a player piano mechanism. In this case, your music data is your piano roll. Your playback engine is the moving parts that convert the piano roll to the actual physical piano movement that drives the keys and makes the sound. So when you're reverse engineering music, when you're trying to get notation out of it, there's a couple different approaches you can take. You would think that starting from the music data would be a good spot to start from, but that requires a lot of technical knowledge. You really need to understand how that playback engine that correlates with the music data even works. And it's not like there's one, there are many. So I'm just going to pull up this list that I found over on VGM PF, which is a great resource. So let me just switch this over. Yeah, so this is a list of the identified Famicom and NES sound drivers.
There's so many of them.
Let's see, where the list tops at 128, and the last category is unique and custom drivers. So there's individual games that just use one. So yeah, there are so many different music formats on the NES alone that trying to reverse engineer and identify the music data format in the playback engine isn't really just feasible. So one of the approaches that will often be taken is looking at the output of the playback engine and looking at the inputs to the sound chip, which would be kind of, in this, going back to the piano roll and player piano metaphor, it would be kind of like transcribing the music by looking at the movement of the player piano keys, if that makes any sense. So that approach is taken by some of the tools that we'll be looking at. But in other cases, a few folks who are way more talented and way more knowledgeable than me have worked out ways of identifying the music data and parsing it and interpreting that into a format that is handled, something that can be handled by your modern your DAWs. One more point I want to make about VGM formats that you'll find online. They're not all equal. Your NSF files that you're going to find online, for example, they're not just the music data that you have that is packaged in that. Your NSF file for a Nintendo soundtrack is actually music data coupled with a playback engine. You're actually getting a stripped down NES ROM that will be run in basically a stripped down NES emulator, and that's what plays back your NES music. There are other VGM formats that you'll find. So in particular, things like the VGM, the .vgm files that you'll find for Genesis music and Mega Drive and Game Gear, Sega Master System, all those. those actually capture the output of the playback engine and have no copy of the music data or the playback engine at all. Like, you're literally just copying the rights to the sound chip. So getting music data that is, human readable and something that you can load into a DAW, each format kind of has a unique approach. Each one takes its own bespoke tool for the most part. There are a few universal tools, but yeah, each one kind of has its own secret recipe that we need to work out. So because each of these VGM formats are different, not all of the converter tools are equal either. Some of them will, like I said, interpret the music data. Some of them will interpret the output of the playback engine and out what what music notes are being played, and we'll log that into a MIDI file. So like I said, we've got two different approaches. We can take the music data, or we can take the output of the playback engine that would normally go to the sound chip and hijack that and convert it to MIDI. There are still some cases, unfortunately, where that's not possible. So at the end of the presentation, we're going to talk about our backup plan, I guess. So that's where you take the outputs of your sound chip, you can break it down into individual audio channels, and do what we talked about at the beginning of the show, where we have basically chiptune stems, we'll call them, that we can transcribe it a little bit more easier than listening to a full mixed song. All right, so let's get on with the demonstration. But before I really get into the nitty-gritty of all this, I want to give a few warnings and disclaimers about the limitations of these tools. They're not all that easy to use. It's very much a mixed bag with how much effort and how much knowledge these tools take. So this is kind of like an intermediate to an advanced tutorial, if that makes any sense. Things are not straightforward as I would like them to be, unfortunately, but they all come with their own limitations. The other thing to just set your expectations accordingly. The output of these tools is not exactly always high quality or consistent even. You're not going to get, like perfect engravings of video game music when you run these tools. You're going to get a starting point. You're going to get something that will take a little bit of massaging to be, workable. But what you do get is generally accurate to either the music data or what the sound chip plays. You'll come across things like MIDI files not being aligned to the tempo grid, which is a really big annoyance. You'll find cases where individual channels or individual instruments will be off key and will need to be transposed individually. You'll lose some of the nuances like pitch bends, vibrato, things like that. They don't always translate properly. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. And I guess one other thing to mention is instrument mappings don't always get preserved. You can expect to hear a lot of acoustic grand piano when you're doing working with these tools. One other thing to mention is sometimes these processes and these tools, they're kind of like cogs in a machine. You have to use one program to convert it to an intermediate output and use another one to get it to your final MIDI file. Sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes. And the other thing to mention is a lot of consoles actually have multiple tools that work with them, and multiple VGM formats will have multiple tools that you can use, and they will often give different results. Some will preserve articulations and things like vibrato and pitch bends and all that better. Some will preserve actual notation better. Some will preserve everything. Things get thrown out. So if you're looking to transcribe a tune, if you're looking to convert a tune, you sometimes want to try multiple different versions of the same of the process to see which one gives you the output that you want to work with. And sometimes you'll find that one tool will translate, say, a melody or a lead line properly. Another tool will translate the bass, and especially things like NES music. You'll find that multiple tools will translate different sections of the tune better than others. So yeah, I think that's enough of a primer. Hopefully I didn't go too fast there. You don't need to take all of this in, but hopefully just setting the baseline of knowledge for everybody here.
So you heard it here. Jeff says they all work perfectly on the first try. Any beginner can do it. I am a chimp at a keyboard, and I will be able to understand.
Oh, exactly. That's exactly what I said. Thanks for repeating that. Thanks for emphasizing that for me, because I really need to make sure that point got across.
Just as a quick disclaimer, everything I just said was a lie. Jeff did a very good job of setting the expectations. I'm just being a nudge.
Yes, I see. And I also mentioned that it worked on modern soundtracks. Now, to be fair, Slowly Crushed, there are actually tools. Like, this is kind of a tangent for this, and maybe we can do a part 2 presentation on this later. But there are modern soundtracks that you can use different tools to break apart in different ways. Things like games that have like dynamic soundtracks and will play different musical elements as you progress through the gameplay. All of that data is still in the music format somewhere. And there are tools that exist that will play back individual elements. So sometimes you can break apart modern soundtracks in ways to make them easier to transcribe.
My brain just broke a little bit as I started to understand this. Like, I know you and I talked about all this, and I didn't quite understand most of it, but something about what you just said, like, yeah, that starts to click. And I know you were talking about how some of these things you can drop in a soundtrack file. Sometimes you need to work it through an emulator and to use the ROM. Hopefully I'm not jumping ahead too quickly, but thinking about it in those terms, the light bulb just went off.
Oh, that's success in my book, I guess. Like, I guess this is all working. But yeah, like one thing that I do want to drive home is this is like, there is no really truly a one size fits all for this. What you're going to find is different songs, different source material takes different approaches. And I wanted to highlight like some of the more common ones, but I also want to highlight some of the ones that kind of just showcase the process as well. So that's why I want to start with reverse engineering a NES tune, because for one, I think this is one that showcases some of the limitations of the tools, showcases some of the quirks of the process, but it's also the one that I got my start off with. Yeah. So as I mentioned before, NES music that you'll find online, the NSF, the Nintendo Sound Format, those are not like MP3s that you play back. Those are essentially stripped down NES ROMs. So someone has basically hacked away at a given NES game to cut out all the graphics data, all the gameplay data, and boil it down, distill it down to just the music data and a playback engine that will run in a customized NES emulator and play back just the music. And as I showcased just a few minutes ago, there are a lot of different playback engines and a lot of different music data formats. So getting to that source data is not the most common approach here. Now, there has been some research into some individual games and some individual engines. I haven't seen any of that developed into a usable tool yet. So the most common approach you'll find for reverse engineering or breaking down these files into MIDI is looking at the output of the playback engine, looking at the writes that it makes to the sound chip, and translating like the frequencies that it's told to play and the pitches that it's told to play into MIDI notation. So I know a lot of you are probably familiar with this process already because this one has been around for a long time. There's a tool called NSF Import. So this is a tool made by a person named Rain Warrior. Oh, by the way, all these tools I'm going to put together. I've already put together a document. I'm going to share a link at the end of the presentation that has where you can find all these tools and a little bit about the process for each. I'm kind of building it up as I go here. But yeah, so this tool is called NSF Import, and it does kind of what it says. It allows you to open up an NSF file that you'd find on the online, and it will convert it not to a MIDI file, but to a FAMI tracker format. And so FAMI tracker is a tool that exists to compose NES music. So I'm just going to open up here a tune from Treasure Master, which is, I'm just bringing out the big guns here. This is a Tim Fallon track where I'm not sure if it's Tim or Jeff. It's credited to Tim, but it sounds like a Jeff Fallon track to me. So there's a whole bunch of settings here that you can use to fine tune and finesse this conversion process. Most of them you can kind of ignore, except for maybe the record time. This is the length of the track, how much of the track do you want to interpret? I usually just leave it at the default. 2 minutes covers most NES tunes. And I'm going to import the second track of this NSF. So in a second, we've got this tune here in a family tracker format. So if I play this back here now, hopefully you guys can hear that because I can only hear it through one ear here. We have taken an NES tune and we have got all the notation data. We've got all the effects that play on the noise channel all here. And yeah, so if you wanted to, you could painstakingly transcribe this yourself manually and get all the notation out of this. But who wants to do that? So like I said, this converts it to a family tracker file. So what we're going to want to do here is save this file as a FTM file. FTM being a family tracker module. Now this is going to get weird. We're going to close this NSF import tool, and we're going to reopen that FTM that we just saved, except this time I've opened it up in a normal version of Family Tracker, a editing version of Family Tracker, because modern versions of this tool have a feature that the NSF import tool don't, and that is called export text. And what this will do is all of this tracker information here, this is all Greek to you, if this looks like the matrix to you, we're saving all this, dumping it into a format that is parsable by other tools. This is plain text, has all the same information, except it's in ASCII text. So a couple of years ago, I wanted a tool to convert my own Family Tracker composition, stuff that I've written myself, into something that I could play with this guy. This is a MIDI NES cartridge, so this will take your standard MIDI files and play it back on an NES. So I wanted a tool to take my own compositions and that I've written in Family Tracker and play them back on this cartridge. So I wrote a tool that will take that output and convert it into a Family Tracker capable, a MIDI NES capable MIDI. But the benefit of all this, the one thing that kind of works out in the end, is you get really accurate transcriptions. So I'm just going to do a little bit of magic here. I'm not going to really explain what happened there, but because it's a lot. But I've taken that text file and interpreted every row and generated a MIDI file out of it, which we can open up in any DAW. I'm just going to use FL Studio because that's my baby. That's what I usually rock with.
Fruity Loops.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Don't judge me.
You know so much more than I do. How could I possibly judge you for using Fruity Loops?
This is what I got started with, okay? and I know how to make this program bend to my will now. And
you're the fruit master.
You could. I will fight people. Like this piano bass is by far my favorite composition tool.
I do actually kind of miss the Fruity Loops sequencer. I used to use that in conjunction with Adobe Audition back in the Stone Age, but there are times that I miss the hell out of that.
Well, I mean, to be fair, I use Reaper too. Like I've got everything installed on this computer here. But yeah, the tangent here. So you can see here we've got 4 channels here, and this is our NES tune perfectly transcribed into MIDI. And you can see here we've got a rough grid alignment. Things are actually converted well. Now the thing is, like I mentioned, you can expect to hear a lot of acoustic grand piano. So I'm going to play this for you guys now. And it's going to sound atrocious because not only are the pulse channels and triangles, like the melodic channels, going to be played back, the noise channel gets played back as a piano too. So it sounds glorious. Oh, I've got the metronome on. Yeah, so let's mute channel 3, which is the noise. And let's mute the triangle as well. But you see here, we've got this glorious fallen arpeggio perfectly transcribed. We've got the dual channel echo preserved here. We've got channel 1 and channel 2 translated properly. We did lose the articulation because that's not preserved as, sorry, I'm getting an echo back in my ears. That's not preserved as MIDI note volume. That gets translated into MIDI CC data because of MIDI NES quirks. But there's enough data here that if you really, worked your ass off, you could actually convert this back into an NSF and it would play back almost perfectly on the real hardware. Let's mute this. But there's some quirks to all this. So because this is fallen, our kick drum gets preserved as a descending sequence of notes. So you run into this quirk where if you're trying to transcribe a bass line in particular, it's a hassle. So again, this is not. It's a perfect transcription of what the NES is doing, but it's nowhere close to what a human would play. I mean, I don't know. The Sigma, can you play kick drum on your bass? I don't know.
Tim can do it.
Tim Follen could do anything. But yeah. So,
yeah, that's what drums sound like. What are you talking about? It's pretty normal.
But yeah, everything is there for better or for worse, is what it amounts to. Now, I would say that if it was possible to go back into like the music driver and reverse engineer the actual music format, it might be possible to get a better result than this. But that's above my pay grade and above my knowledge level. So I pointed out some of the limitations there. There are some other quirks with this process. NSF import doesn't play nicely with expansion audio games. So I'm going to import another one here, my favorite gimmick. If I open that up, you can see here we've got some things preserved, but we've lost 3 channels of audio because the tool just doesn't support it. There is hope, though. And this, I kind of buried the lead a little bit here. There are other tools that exist for NSF audio. And I want to show off, this is a relatively new contribution to the scene that I've seen. This is a program called Fami Studio, which is an alternative to Fami Tracker for composing NES music. And it's built more like a DAW. And it seems like a wonderful, glorious tool, but I've used it only for one thing and one thing only, and that's opening up NSF files that have expansion audio and reverse engineering them. So I just imported that same NSF file there using the open, literally just opening the file as if it was anything else. And here, we've got our base NES channels, and we've actually preserved the expansion audio. And this tool does handle all the expansions I've ever tried. And you kind of can see here the notation is presented on the piano roll here. If you want to, again, if you want to transcribe that manually, you can. But this tool also allows, I'm going to save, I'm going to export. I'm not talking over this. You can export a MIDI file from this tool directly. Now, I find this tool's conversion has its own quirks. Things don't always get perfectly preserved, or they get translated in different ways. But you can generate a MIDI. I'm actually opening up a project folder here for my band. Sorry. But yeah, you can save this MIDI here. I'm just going to say Gimmick Song 1 and open that up in FL Studio again. So yeah, everything is here. And again, everything sounds atrocious because things are getting translated to things that are not meant to be played on piano. But yeah, everything is here. I just realized I lost the Twitch chat.
One thing I'll sort of throw in there, and this might just be a personal thing. When I'm doing transcription, I'm never really trying to track the drums too closely.
Right.
So in my book, this is like an absolute win. Like if I can get the pitch and the rhythm of the non-percussive instruments, that's Christmas in June.
Right. And the one problem that arises is when you have a channel like a Tim Follen tune that has the bass line and the drums on a single channel, because you might not care about your drum track,
but you care about your bass track.
You care about your bass line, and that your drum they're going to pollute your bass transcription. So again, going back to the limitations of these tools, none of these are perfect. They're all going to have their own caveats and their own limitations. And I mean, you have to think about it though. Like, we're taking music that was not meant to be in a MIDI format. Like, these were made for individual sound chips with very unique capabilities, and the composers that we're trying to pay tribute to here, like, they were making these tools or these sound chips bend over backwards in a lot of ways to produce some complicated sounds. and trying to take the tricks and tools and the things that they were using at the time to make their music sound good, the music that we like it sound good, and convert that into a format that just doesn't play nicely with all those tricks and tools. Like, there's going to be some loss. There's going to be some things that just don't come over smoothly.
Yeah.
So just accept those limitations. But what I will say is, again, like, for the most part, for people who are arranging video game music, if you're just looking to see, okay, hey, how does this particular arpeggio go, or how does this quick little run go through, I want to see the exact notation of that. It's easier to pick it out from a MIDI file than it is like, sometimes easier going by ear. Like, I mean, just look at this line here, for example. Like that's, it would take me forever to work that out. I'm not a quick transcriber. I can't really do things by ear as quickly as a lot of people can. So having it in a format that I can, manipulate directly is a huge boost for my workflow.
Exactly.
So yeah, I could go through some other NES examples, but I don't really want to waste too much time on one piece of hardware here. But one thing I do want to talk about is Game Boy. Let's switch over to my presentation here. And the reason why I want to mention Game Boy is the tools and process are actually very similar, because the most popular tool for doing Game Boy reverse engineering is a tool called GBS import, which is literally just, you open this up, it prompts for a file. This tool does only this. And you tell it to transcribe, you tell it to convert a song, and tell it to import here. Oh, sorry, I'm not showing my screen. There we go. There we go, I'll do that again. So we open up GBS import, point it to a GBS file, which is your Game Boy sound format. Tell it a song you want to transcribe. I'm going to do song 3 because that's my favorite. And what that does is convert it again to a FAMI tracker file. Go through the same process again of exporting a text file, doing all that, and you can get a MIDI file. But one thing that I learned literally just while researching for this presentation, there's actually a new tool that has been released called GB2 MIDI. And it's that magical combination of tool. It's one of those things that you like, it almost seems too good to be true. Mike, you're good. It's almost too good to be true because it actually interprets the music data from games directly. And this is the list of supported games. It's like 2,000 lines long. So this one person has systematically gone through and identified how each of these games internally tick and wrote a conversion tool for them all. So I'm going to do the same game. So this tool actually requires the individual game ROMs and not the GBS files. So Google is your friend here trying to find these files. So yeah, just literally just drag and drop your game ROM onto this program, and then MIDI files appear. But it's not perfect. So I've only just begun experimenting with this tool. I only found this tool like literally last night. So if I open up that same song we were just listening to in FAMI Tracker, this arpeggio that happens, if you listen to how that other tool interpreted that, is this playing through? I can't tell. Doesn't look like it's playing at all here. I must have been able to open that wrong. There we go. So if you look at how those arpeggios were translated, well, actually that's not the right channel. They're just literally individual single notes. So some details are lost, some things are not preserved. But it may be an option for different games. I'm literally still learning how this tool works and still learning its limitations. One other thing I discovered too, let's delete these files here, is some games, it doesn't convert to MIDI. if you drag Shantae, for example, some vert here onto this tool, spits out a whole bunch of files, but they are XM modules, not MIDI files. So you have this extra conversion process that you're going to need to go walk through. But yeah, it's still useful for reverse engineering Game Boy tunes. All right. Yeah, a little bit of a tangent there because I literally had no time to prepare any information about this tool because I literally, like I said, discovered it a few days ago. It's a brand new development in this in this tool set. All right, so let's move on to the next video game format that we want to reverse engineer. This one is actually kind of a different approach compared to what we were just doing before. N64 reverse engineering. Again, there's been a decent, I'm not sure if this is a community effort or an individual person or whatever, but someone or a group of people have systematically gone through and identified how all of these N64 games tick internally. So if we open up a tool that exists called N64 MIDI tool, check out the list of its supported games here, where we've got everything is here, as far as I can tell. Now, this tool, it doesn't identify which game you've got. So if you want to extract music out of a given game, you have to identify it yourself. So I think I'm going to work with. I picked out Pilot Wings. So pick up Pilot Wings 64. We're going to be working with the U.S., the North American version of the game, and this is another case where you need to find an actual copy of the game ROM and not some sort of extracted audio format.
And to be clear, Jeff, you are not, I repeat, not advocating that people go out there and obtain ROMs in a less than legal manner.
Not at all.
No, this was all on your computer when you got it.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, good. Just wanted to clear that up.
So, yeah, I just happened to have a copy of Pilot Wings 64 on my laptop.
It comes with all the latest, Lenovo and Acer laptops.
It's actually buried in like one of the Windows system folders somewhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this tool doesn't really give you any sort of like indication. Like there's no song titles here to work with. So I found the easiest way to use this tool was to just literally click on Export All to MIDI. We'll give it a folder here. We'll tell it to export to Pilot Wings. And if we browse that folder, all of a sudden here we now have 31 MIDI files. And I'm not going to open up all of those in a in FL Studio. I'm just going to play them back in just another program in FooBar just so we can hear them and not dissect them. You can see here we've got a handful of shorter tunes. Those are likely just jingles and sound effects. So sorting by length and looking for the longer tunes is probably your best starting point. So let's see here. That's file beginning with 02. Let's open that one up just to see what kind of data it gave us here. So we'll open that up again. So I hear a few things that are maybe out of key, and we probably have a case of like drum tracks being interpreted as notation. But everything seems to be here, and this seems to be one of the cases where everything gets converted with, like proper tempo mapping and all that. So it looks like things are actually, like Sigma's saying, it could use a little transposition, but it's on point. Like this is a solid starting point. And again, this is not like logging what the sound chip is doing. This is like going back and reverse. Like someone has identified how these music engines all work and figured out ways of making them talk in MIDI is basically it. This tool is something that you can just grab off of GitHub. Again, I'll put together a list of links that people will be able to pull from and just grab this tool. But yeah, I have not found a game yet that I've tossed through this tool and didn't get satisfactory results. It's like, honestly, I kind of wish someone would do this kind of quality effort for everything. Maybe it's coming. Maybe people are working on it. But yeah,
Jeff,
N64 is honestly, it's honestly one of the easiest ones to work with.
Do you have any fucking idea how much you just changed my life?
Does anybody in the chat have any requests for things? Because I do have a set of N64 ROMs here that were on my computer when I got it.
Yeah, I got a few.
Let's just try to get one or two just to. I see Minor FF Fanatic asking for Ogre Battle.
That's a good one, I guess. I was gonna say Cruising USA, but whatever.
So let's.
I can't be a dictator all the time.
Cruising USA might be an interesting one to see because I know that one has vocal samples, and just it'd be kind of curious to abuse our ears with how those get transcribed into MIDI.
Cruising.
So yeah, let's open that up again. We want Ogre Battle. The interface for this tool is not exactly that user-friendly. Like everything is a drop-down menu. Like it does take like autocomplete style things. Like you can click on it and press O and it'll jump to O, so it's not entirely unusable. But yeah, so let's open up Ogre Battle 64, and we do have the US ROM. And tell it to export all MIDI. We'll give it a folder. I'll just say OB for short. And if that worked as intended, boom, we now have a folder with 105 MIDI files here.
That tracks.
Yeah, so let's dump everything into foobar here. So I see a decent amount of length for all these. So these don't seem to be sound effects or anything. These seem to be actually like full-on songs. Again, there's no metadata here. There's nothing that indicates, what song is which. Everything is just labeled by, where it's located in the game data. So it's not. It takes a little bit of fact-finding, a little bit of searching through.
If that's a problem for anyone, they're a coward.
like if you can get to this point, like the work is already done.
Yeah.
Right.
If you throw up your hands in defeat at this stage, I got nothing for you.
Like honestly, like N64, when I discovered this tool for the first time, it was like mind blowing to me that someone has put this amount of effort into making a conversion tool that works this well. Like it's just baffling to me. And maybe what it is, maybe it just happens that N64 games, like maybe the music is close to MIDI internally anyway. Maybe it's not that hard to do. I don't want to like sell this person short because I think this is like such a useful tool, such an amazing tool for anybody who wants to cover video game music from N64. So yeah, I'm just gonna play one of these tunes. I have no idea what Ogre Battle is supposed to sound like, so I'm probably not a good person to judge what these tunes are supposed to be like.
This sounds good.
I'm not hearing anything that sounds grossly wrong or bad.
And I should say
a few things.
With the MIDI, it bounces it to acoustic grand, but as a MIDI file, you could drop that in a DAW and replace the VSTs, right?
Oh, absolutely, you could. I mean, I'm not saying anybody should do that as an arrangement and call it a day, but
I'll say that.
I mean, it is a fun experiment to see like what happens. I mean, people do this where they restore video game music and try to like play it back with samples and sound sets that are better than the original. I mean, that's. I have my own thoughts on and opinions on that.
That may work in some corners of the internet, but not here at DoD. You got to play it live.
This is not why we're showcasing these tools. Like we are showing these stuff again as
it's
ways
a tool.
of getting notation. It's a tool. It's something that you have in your tool belt. It's a process that you can use to aid your process of arranging video game music. That's all this is supposed to be. So yeah, I just opened up one of the MIDI files we generated. I have no idea what this tune is. Again, I opened up tune 00B, which is completely meaningless to me.
Oh, I love that one. I'm seeing some variation in the velocities there too. Is that right?
Yeah, it does. It looks like it's all being preserved. I mean, like a lot of things are like the same, but I do see a handful of where things get a little bit louder in there. I'd be curious to see if any pitch bending is preserved. I see patch volume. I don't see anything for pitch bending. It's not to say that it's not there or doesn't get preserved, but maybe because I don't know again what this tool is supposed to sound like or what the student is supposed to sound like to begin with.
Do you think it would show up in Reaper if you weren't using Fruity Loops?
If it, Fruity Loops is not okay.
I'm just busting chops. I'm busting.
Well, the thing is,
I'm busting fruit.
I hate Fruity Loops' way of like handling MIDI in general. It's not great.
I'm not trying to fruit shame you here. I'm just you know.
It feels a little bit like you are.
We're just having a good time.
Just having a good time, yeah. But I mean, even without that, this is still a really solid starting point. This is still a great, easy to work with transcription. And I mean, if you're looking to arrange like any N64 tune, like this is where I would probably start, and it at least gets you rolling. Thankfully, like we're gonna get to some of the other consoles shortly, and thankfully, things are actually not any less difficult for some of them either. But I think I have one more difficult one to show people first. And this is because I got a couple of requests for this specifically from you, Mike. People
love this
people
system.
wanted to yeah, well, so do I, and I love the sound of it. Working with Sega Genesis music that you'll find online is a bit of a challenge, and that's because the VGM format, the files that you'll find online, are very far removed from the original music data and the original playback engine. So VGM files are more like output logs, basically. Like so, VGM files ignore what the music data is originally. They just take the output that would be normally sent to the sound chip and record that. So basically, it's like, okay, if I need to set this sound chip register to 24, I'm going to record that, and that's what's recorded. It has no idea what tempo is. It has no idea about anything other than just like literally the ones and zeros that get sent to the sound chip. Now, it's an amazing format for preserving and documenting video game music, and you can get it to MIDI, but it's not the best way, I think, to. It's not what you would want to do if you were trying to get at how these tunes tick internally. So the tool that I want to showcase for doing the Genesis music is an older tune called VGM to MIDI, and I'm just going to open up the link just so you can see the date. I want to check the date here. This tool was last updated in 2013. It's a little bit janky, a little bit of a pain to use, but it does work. So. No, sorry. Again, I didn't switch over my screen. So yeah, there. This is the date. Like the last modified 2013 September 9th. So yeah, this is not exactly a fresh new tool. So yeah, we had a couple of requests come in for specific tunes, and one of them was looking at Toe Jam and Earl. So I'm just going to grab. I'm showing you every step of the process here. I'm going to literally grab one of the tunes here from VGMRips.net, which is an amazing site for grabbing rips in the VGM format. So we're going to download first track, Toe Jam Jammin', and I'm going to save that to here. Now, the thing is, this is, you see, save. I forgot about this part. I should have prepared this a little bit better. You see here, we've got a VGZ file, and what that is a compressed file. It is a VGM file that has been run through a zip compression or a zlib compression. So what you're going to want to do here to get that out is you're going to want to rename your file to vgm.z, and if you've got a program like 7-zip installed, it will recognize that, and you can tell it to extract that file, and now you have a .vgm file that this tool will play nicely with. So yeah, we'll open this up, VGM to MIDI, add our file, Toe Jam Jammin', and we'll just say convert all. And yeah, we have a MIDI file. Now, this is, again, where the limitations of the tool and the limitation of the VGM format itself are going to show through, because things like like that 388 kilobytes. Right,
Can fit it on floppy disk now.
I mean, these files did originate, back when internet bandwidth and storage space was not as cheap as it was now. But
Computer was the size of warehouse, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about efficiency, right? So, yeah, we've got this tune converted here, and you can see here we've got 6 channels on the top, those are your FM channels, and we've got 2 more at the bottom, which are likely DAC samples, like your drum samples. But I think we'll open up here, if we see this here, open this up, well, you can see here that things do not seem to be aligned to any sort of sensible grid whatsoever. And that's a limitation of the VGM format and the tools that we're using to convert it. Like, there's no concept of tempo in the data that we're working with. It's literally just, okay, we're writing registers at this time and this time and this time and this time and this time, and we're just taking those register writes and converting them into pitches in MIDI. But yeah, we'll work with what we've got here. So I'm just going to try playing this back and see what it sounds like, and see if it sounds anything like the original Toe Jam and Earl song. Doesn't sound bad. Like, it's recognizable, and if you were looking to figure out what things are playing, if you're looking at what is this is the bass line. I can't hear it as I'm playing for you guys. So Sigma says, yeah, you could probably use your DAW to reverse engineer the tempo. Yeah, so you could probably do that. I haven't found a DAW that's really good at scaling the events properly. Like, I know FL can do it, but it's very imprecise. So like, trying to do this and stretch it and align it to a grid it's a pain in the dick. It's a pain in the ass to do it. If there is a DAW that's capable of scaling MIDI events and handling multiple channels and doing it in a consistent way and adapting things to tempo properly, please let me know, because FL Studio ain't in for that.
Now, I've seen other Sega Genesis soundtrack file formats. I don't know if I've seen it in a while, but GYM, that's a thing, right?
Yeah, it is a thing. And if you find a GIM file anywhere, delete it and look for the VGM equivalent.
Okay. Glad we solved that one.
Yeah, so VGM format. So both of these formats work with the same principles. VGM and GIM work the same way. They both take snapshots of what's being sent to the sound chips and just log that as a sequence of events. GIM files, GYM files, they take snapshots at video frame rate. So at 60 frames per second. So every 60th of a second, it says, okay, what's being sent to the sound chip? What's being sent to the sound chip? What's being sent to the sound chip? And plays the sequences back. Audio does not work well at 60th of a second.
Yeah, that sounds chaotic. That sounds...
Well, in principle, it works because a lot of video game soundtracks, especially the classic hardware, we'll say Genesis and SNES era and before, we'll say, a lot of the music engines were in fact timed with video, so they were internally generally just updating once every frame, so once every 60th of a second. So in principle, it works in a lot of cases, but you end up with this almost like a jittery sound if things are not done properly with a GIM file. So the VGM format, it works on the same principle by taking these snapshots, but it actually takes it at what would be an audio sample rate. So your 44.1 kilohertz sample rate. I'm getting into the nitty gritty of the format, which I was hoping not to really have to do, but
I wanted to make you do it. So here we are.
So yeah, like I said, the short version of the story is like GIM was great for its time, but it has so many limitations, so many problems that it's not a good preservation format by any means. So yeah, like I said, if you find a GIM file anywhere, ditch it and look for the VGM rip, because almost anything that ever existed and was ever ripped to a GIM file has now been done and superseded as a VGM file. Okay. So one more thing I want to mention about the VGM format. If you go to VGM rips .net and look for the different. Actually, no, I didn't want companies. I wanted systems. You look at the different systems. There's a multitude of formats that are preserved here. Even some of the ones we talked about before, like Game Boy and NES. The tool, as far as I know, VGM to bid only supports a very, very small subset of the sound chips that the actual VGM format can support. So, yeah, it's not perfect. Is what I want to make a point of. So, the reason why I kind of said this is that VGM to MIDI is for Sega Genesis and Master System and Game Gear is that those all use a small set of sound chips, and those are all supported by VGM to MIDI. There is other hope though for converting Sega Genesis tunes, and again, this is something that this one is something that has been around for a while, but I'm only really starting to play around with it now. This is a tool called SMPS to MID, and this tool covers a particular Sega sound engine that was used in practically all of the Sonic and Sonic Team games. It was used in a bunch of other ones too, but this tool doesn't play quite as nicely with those other games. Like you have to do a little bit of reverse engineering work yourself, and it's kind of above and beyond the scope of this presentation. So yeah, I'm just going to show you this one. This is SMPS to MIDI. This is another tool that works with your ROM files again. These are all on my computer. I'm sure they're all on your computer too. We'll open up this here. This is Sonic the Hedgehog 3. We need it in a .bin format. We can see here we got all this not useless, but this matrix code of hex values here. These are all like the individual locations in the game. But let's click on one other. I'm picking on song 5 and say SMPS to MIDI. Actually, you can see here I got a few examples here where I've already converted them. And let's open this up in. Actually, I didn't want. I opened that.
Is this still Toe Jam and Earl?
No, this is going to be Sonic the Hedgehog 3 because Sonic the Hedgehog 3 uses a different sound engine.
So that's a good game too.
Toe Jam and Earl actually uses. This is going to be one for all of the really nerdy Sega Genesis fans. If you're familiar with the GEMS sound driver and the sound associated with that, Toe Jam and Earl uses like the precursor to GEMS, which is even harder to work with apparently, and it has a lot more limitations. So honestly, it's a wonder that a soundtrack is even as good as it is. There are tools that work with some other sound engines too, but they're not quite as polished as this one.
So it sounds like to get the really funky sound, you can only use the pre-GEMS sound system.
Well, you have like this. Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah, it's scientifically proven to be the funkiest soundtrack there is. I got a frog in my throat just by how excited I was about the funk.
Speaking of funk, I think this one might be Marble Garden Zone, which I think is pretty funky in and of itself.
That's a good funk. Sonic's got some funk.
Yes. So let's. I think I got the right tune here. So let's try this one. I'm liking what I'm seeing in this tune. Like things are aligned to the grid. The tempo is preserved. Practically perfect.
The drums ended and I stopped dancing.
Sorry, I guess my levels are a little bit unbalanced here. I'm kind of doing everything on the fly.
No, it's fine. It's okay. Whatever.
Yeah, I mean, you wanted to hear the music and not me talking anyway.
Oh, right. We're doing a stream. I'm not just listening to Sonic midis. Okay. I'm your host, Evil Sonic. With me is Jeff, JMR.
So yeah, like this particular tool, this SMPS2 MIDI, it supports practically all of the Sonic games out of the box. Apparently, Sonic and Knuckles has a few issues with the conversion tool. I'm not quite sure what the limitations are. The person's already also worked in Knuckles Chaotix and Rystar, or Restar, however you pronounce that. And the tool does work with other SMPS soundtracks, but again, you have to kind of like reverse engineer where the music data is and kind of help the tool along. Maybe there's some sort of documentation out there that exists. I was trying to research it and I couldn't quite find it. So something else I kind of wanted to mention too is, again, like we talked about this one particular tool, this SMPS. This is just one of the Sega music drivers. This is the list for Sega that people have documented, and 92. But if you look at the list of games that are potentially supported by this tool, if you go to SMPS, yeah, we've got a decent number of games here. I see a couple of bootlegs as well. Looks like a few things use this tool or use this music engine kind of like without Sega's approval, which is kind of fascinating. But anyway, lots of
Sega's not Nintendo. They're not going to sue you into the ground.
So yeah, there are other tools that exist for Sega Genesis that I will give links to. They're not, I wouldn't say quite as ready for prime time yet. I had a hard time getting anything usable out of it. In fact, actually, I want to show this file off. I think I still kept it just for the sake of this. I tried to convert a tune from Dune Battle for Arrakis, and what I ended up with was 3 MIDI files, and this one file is 6 days and 13 hours long. So
can you send me that?
Sure.
I got an idea for Brevity Month.
Yes, someone needs to cover this. But yeah, so clearly, again, these tools are like the other tools I know I'm aware of. Like I said, just not quite ready to shine quite yet. But again, maybe with a little bit of polish, and maybe with other games, other soundtracks, they might work well. But just from my handful of experience, not quite ready yet. All right, let's move on to the next console I wanted to talk about. Actually, we can kind of brush past this one a little bit because so Super Nintendo, you found your SPC files online, and you've probably found an RSN file, which is literally just a WinRAR package of SPC files. Again, I don't know why we're really worrying about compressing 64 kilobytes down to further these days. It's important. Again, maybe it was more important again when like paying for server space in the early 90s was a big thing, but yeah, hardly a concern in 2025.
Cost of floppy disks. Right.
So yeah, I've got links here for 2 tools, and I can demonstrate them if we really need to.
We can. But I know.
Maybe we can come.
There was a thing we wanted to make sure we covered for this month specifically.
Yes,
and I also know you told me this was going to be like a quick, it was not going to be a very complicated one. So maybe after we do that one, we can go to the fun stuff for...
Well, yeah. So what works in our favor here is these two tools are what I would consider the backup plan for Super Nintendo. These are what you use if the cream of the crop tool doesn't work. So as we've been going along here, we've been talking about like in these individual tools for specific consoles and how each one kind of has its like bespoke process, and it's all a bit of a pain in the ass to use. What if I told you that there was one tool that existed that handled Super Nintendo, some Sega Saturn, some PlayStation 1, and some PlayStation 2, also handled a handful of Capcom arcade games, handled the majority of Nintendo Game Boy Advance games, and the majority of Nintendo DS games.
Why, Jeff, I would tell you were off your rocker.
Yeah, so...
I'd have you committed. It would be literally insane.
It seems like a pipe dream, right? It seems like it's unrealistic.
It's like a Tony Hawk Pro Skater pipe dream.
Right. It's
a half pipe dream.
So such a magical tool does exist, and I've messed up my slide transition, so I've got to click in all of these things again.
That's the magic of it too.
Again.
It's
Yeah,
too magical. We
was,
can't just do it once. We got to do it twice.
No, we've got to do it twice. All of these things are handled by one tool, and that one tool is called, wait for it, VGM Trans.
Ally.
And this tool, when I first discovered it, it was like where has this been my entire life? Because not only is it great for converting video game music into MIDI files, which is what we're talking about here, but it is so useful for figuring out how these formats tick, like how these formats actually work internally, how the music is stored. And it allows you to do like such deep dives and exploration into how these tunes are coded, and like it just tickles my nerd brain in all the right ways. And like it's like fascinating because like with this tool you can actually find things like unused melodies. Like a couple of years ago someone pointed this out to me and it blew my mind. Like there are unused melodies in A Link to the Past, and you can find them with this tool. Like it's like where's that head exploding gif?
Do you see what Sigma Beta said in there?
Where is that?
Love that the GPA A button looks like a period after the word VGM Trans.
Intentional, maybe. But yeah, this tool, it's not. I've been singing its praises. It doesn't support everything, but it supports a lot. And I've literally just copied and pasted the list of the individual sound drivers and tools that it supports, and it covers a lot. Like each one of those lines is not one game. It's like this is an entire subset and family of games that are just all magically converted into MIDI files and sound fonts. So you can use this to extract samples out of these games as well. And this is another thing that's kind of great about this tool. This tool is under active development. This is something that is still being worked on today. They're adding new formats pretty constantly, and they're improving the conversions, they're improving the extractions. This is the one tool you want to walk away from this presentation with.
Jeff, if DoD Twitch streams were an infomercial, this would be where you tell us to call now.
Basically, yes. And one other thing I wanted to mention too is a lot of these tools that I've been showing off, like they're command line tools, they're Windows only tools. This is actually a multi-platform tool. So you Linux users out there, I'm thinking of you, Sigma. Like this is something that you can actually run on your computer without any effort. This is Windows, Mac, and Linux compatible as well. It's an amazing piece of software. So let's fire it up. Wanted to do DS, right? So yeah. So I had a couple of requests come in for a couple of DS games before we started this. So I'm going to show you where I source my files from for most of these. This is a website called vgm.hcs64.com, and it has everything. And I'm not going to show you just how much it has because it's kind of mind-blowing, but like any video game soundtrack that has been ripped ever online is practically indexed by this website, including modern things. So there's a lot of stuff here that is kind of insane. But yeah, so we're just going to grab the file here for Haley's Comet software is still up, and it's the forum is still as janky as it used to be. But yeah, we're going to just grab here this NDS file for Professor Layton and the Curious Village. Save that.
That's the number 20th best-selling DS game ever.
I was not aware of that fact.
I only know that because I've just pulled up the list of best-selling Nintendo DS games to see what people might be asking about, and it happened to literally be on the screen when we were talking. I just scrolled down just enough, and I saw, hey, that's right there. 4.49 million copies, released February 15th, 2007.
So, yeah, we just extracted that file that we just downloaded with all of these mini 2SF files, which are kind of like playlist entries, we'll say. And we have this 2SF LEB file at the bottom here. We can open up either of these, and VGM Trans is smart enough to figure out what we want. So if I open up, say, puzzles.mini mini 2SF, open that up. Did I choose a game that isn't going to work? No, I did. We've got one here. See here, we've got a list of samples. I don't know if these are going to play or not in this tool. Can't tell. And we have a list of sequences at the bottom here. So I'm just going to click on one of these and click play. Review it. Playback interrupted. It might not work because I am doing some crazy shit with my computer to get the audio out here. Maybe if I close this one. So I know FL Studio sometimes likes to take ownership of my audio. Let's see here. Let's open up that file again. It's going to go through and parse those and tell it to play again. Let's see if this works. No, it's not working either way. So yeah, this tool is not allowing me to play it back in within the tool, but whatever. We're just going to take it and save it as, and export it as a MIDI and a DL, or actually we'll choose MIDI, S2F, and DLS. And we're just going to tell it to go, I don't know why it wants to go to my music folder all by default. And we're just going to save that there. So we can see here we've got 3 files that we've created. We've got a MIDI file, a DLS bank, and an S2F bank. So we've got both a MIDI file and a corresponding DLS file. So if I open up FL Studio again, open up the MIDI file that we just generated. I'm going to choose Fruity LSD again. And we are going to tell it to open up the DLS file that we just generated as well. Is this not going to work? Actually, I might have got a I might have chosen a bad example here. Oh, there we go. So it's just tune 0 doesn't work. Tune 0 is silence.
Fuck you, Tune 0.
Tune 0 is bad. So let's do tune 1. Open up tune 1. There we go. I wanted this to be off the cuff. I wanted to be able to show people that these tools are like, I didn't want to like cherry pick examples that were going to work perfectly. I wanted to like show people what this process is like and how
this is such a slice of life that we're doing here. This is literally groundbreaking documentary work that we're doing.
So yeah, we opened up the MIDI file and we opened up the DLS file as well here. And if we play this back, not only is it a MIDI transcription, but it's a sound accurate-ish.
Yeah, the instrumentation on that's insanely spot on.
It's copying all the samples and playing it back with the original samples. And I'm pretty sure
gets me hot and bothered. It's like, good.
Like you can do this with Reaper. You can do this with other tools. Like if your DAW doesn't support a DLS bank, you can open up an SF2 sound font. These are all fairly common files that are supported pretty widely by every DAW. But yeah, we've got, again, tempo data is preserved. You can see here the pitches are all, the volumes are all there. We do have pitch data. I don't know if there's anything actually in any of these channels, but I see it showing up there. So we are copying every bit of detail we can out of these tunes and converting it into MIDI that we can play back reasonably accurately here. And if you want to go all like Siva Gunner on this and like do your own arrangement that sounds like the original game, you can play each one of these instruments as if it was your own sample set. Like so not only you're getting the music, you're getting the instruments of this as well, which is kind of again, it's just mind blowing that this tool even exists. Let's see here. So someone else requested Castlevania Dawn of Souls. So let's do that one. Extract these files. We're going to close this and open up the second file that we just saved here. So let's open up any of these. And again, doesn't matter which one you open up, it's just going to grab everything. And you actually see here, like, these are the internal names for these songs. These are some things that are getting pulled out of that data set. So we can see here, this is Boss 1. We can take that, save that as a MIDI file, open that up in our DAW as if it was any other MIDI file. Just for shits, I'm going to play it back with the default MIDI sound set just to, like, things do still translate well. It's not just that it's not playing with the DLSS file that makes it sound right.
Damn.
But having the instruments is nice too. That maybe doesn't sound entirely perfect.
Make it all orchestra hits.
Yes.
Gold medal. We're done.
Oh yeah, that's
incredible.
That's the number one.
Plus 0.00.
But yeah, like you can see here, like again, it looks like tempo is being preserved properly for the most part. Like we've got volume articulation, we've got mod wheel stuff. Everything is translating well. And this is not, like I said, not just for DS. This is a tool that supports so many other formats. So if I open up, I don't know why I have Super Mario World here as an example, but if you open up an SPC file, yeah, I just had the title theme. I mean, this would be the first SNES tune that most people would have heard when you got the console, right?
No, you say SNES. You don't say SNES or Super NES.
No, I say SNES, yeah.
My friends growing up called it Super.
Yeah.
I love how that just like you just couldn't even respond. You're just like no.
I'm so engrossed into what this tool is doing.
Not a Jersey thing for you. Okay, I gotcha.
This is. Yeah, I wanted to choose that tune because everybody knows what that song is supposed to sound like. And here it is being played back in FL Studio with like just a handful of clicks and very little effort. Now, this tool doesn't cover everything. There are a handful of Super Nintendo games that are not supported. There's a handful of PlayStation games that are not supported. But when it is supported, the tool works like magic. And sorry, I don't know if anybody just heard that loud buzz. I'm being told to turn down my master output of the DAW. Let me say, turn it down 5 dB. All right. So yeah, this tool again is like just like it is my favorite.
It's the
tool
White
I've built
Album
lately.
of video game music transcription.
Right. It is perfect from start to finish. Not a bad feature in it at all. So yeah. Does anybody else have any other tools we can try to? Or any other songs that we want to see what this tool can do for us? Let's try Crash Bandicoot. I haven't actually tried this to see if it works.
Whoever asked for that must be a cool person.
It must be. So yeah, I'm literally just grabbing these files off the website with no extra work whatsoever. Extracting them out. Let's try opening up. You know the soundtrack, I don't. Is there any song that you want to hear?
Is there like beach or intro or title or something?
I see beach, a title, and Insanity Beach.
Let's do that one.
Let's try opening that one up. Export as MIDI. Open it up. Once there, open up the samples.
Is this the original?
Yes.
Okay, so
That sounds right.
This sounds perfect. It sounds like the literal thing.
And yeah, this is being played back in your DAW in real time in a MIDI format.
Are you kidding me? That's so... Oh, my... Oh, Jeff! Oh.
And one of the beautiful things about this tool is, like, you remember how we talked about how things like drum samples and all that sometimes like get polluted in here? No, because you're playing back, because you have the opportunity of playing it back with the original samples and original sounds, everything is going to sound right. Yeah, actually, yeah. Like, let's see if I can find an example here, which is the drum track. Yeah.
Look at the velocities. They're so... They're varied. Well,
Yeah.
not now, but they were.
Let's find another channel.
Jeff. So good.
I can't take credit for this tool at all. Like, I have contributed nothing to this amazing thing.
I feel like Salieri. I'm just dropping the pages. It's just like I'm hearing the voice of God. God damn it.
I'm just happy. I feel like I've been holding back to, because like, this tool has existed for quite some time now, and people have been gradually discovering it, I think. But I'm hoping this kind of like it just shows people what's truly capable, what these tools are truly capable of, and if they're not just like as big of a pain in the ass as they used to be. Like, this is a easy to use tool. It allows you to like poke around at the data and see how it ticks internally, which is like my favorite part about it. But
if they don't understand how good this is, I will explain it to them. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, like, this is something that, like, honestly, I think I said before, I've wished it existed for quite some time. I just want to like try to find another example.
Yes,
here.
Zio, update to VGM trans. God damn.
Yes.
That is literally the point of what we're talking about here today. If you want to win Nintendo DS month, you go get yourself some VGM trans.
Yeah. So I'm actually kind of wondering now, is this going to like bias entries towards being DS and not 3DS? Because 3DS is I'll say unfortunately, but it's new enough that uses mostly streaming music. It uses basically MP3 files for the sake of conversation here. That there's not very much you can do to break them down any easier. So I'm wondering if I've just like stilted the competition in favor of DS just because it's so easy to work with these tunes.
So Jeff, let me tell you, I have had a lot of years where I'm tracking DoD, and I've had a handful of years where I'm kind of in the in the room where stuff's getting talked about, and I'm seeing stuff behind the curtain. And for the past 7 months, I've been the guy, and I can say unequivocally, without a doubt, nobody fucking knows. It doesn't matter. Somebody's going to come up with a crazy ass idea, and 20 other people are going to come up with other ideas. It's all about the music. It's, this is just one thing out of many. I think I did a rambly bit there that had like a sliver of truth, but this is a tool to help you, but it also it's part of the taking the puzzle pieces out of the box. You still got to make your own arrangement. This in of itself does not help you win golds. It is a thing that helps you, transcribe stuff and do a little bit of the heavy lifting. Just looking at the list of games.
It allows you to focus on what makes your arrangement
Yeah,
without having to spend the effort. I mean, some people will say it's part of their process or whatever to transcribe things by ear, and I mean,
I don't believe them, but yeah.
But I know for me, I am not quick with that process.
I am terrible with that process. I mean, maybe there are some people that the act of listening to it, they're hearing how it fits in with all the other things, and it sparks ideas, and I don't want to discount that, certainly. But in my book, it's one of those things where it takes some of that executive function away from, like, I need to find out what these notes are, and it allows you to sort of say, okay, I know what these notes are, what do I want to do with them? One of the other things I I want to double check, but I'm pretty sure the number of games that are Nintendo DS vastly outnumbers how many 3DS games there are. So
True.
it's one of those
it's
things.
always going to be biased, yeah.
Yeah, there's. I would say it's, you know, it's possible that's a variable, but it's also there's some other variables in the mix that I wouldn't worry too much about it. This is really fucking cool, I gotta say. VGM trans.
BGM
Okay.
trans again, yeah.
I know I'm not supposed to have opinions and stuff as the guy who runs DoD, but like, soapbox for a second. VGM trans. I just love the way that sounds. Be an ally, motherfuckers.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Hate has no place here.
I don't even know how to follow that up. I mean,
I'm
there's
so
other
glad that
conversa-
you are not secretly like some just. And this is the part of the stream where Jeff rails into.
No, it's just weird because we're going very far from the subject matter of the presentation. But not to say that I disagree. but yeah, I'm also exhausted. So
Yeah.
So one thing I did want to touch on, just I guess briefly, after we finish singing the praises of VGM trans and the trans community in general, two different topics. Yeah, sometimes these tools still don't work. They don't get you what you want, and you have to fall back on your ears and your actual transcription skills. So I want to take a moment to showcase some tools that will help you with that process as well. Like again, this is kind of like not really the meat of the presentation, but there are some useful resources here that I want to show off as well.
I will say
so
this is what I have used primarily, like for the past 4 years or so. This has been my go-to when I can't find like a quick MIDI or a VG lead sheet or something on, like a one-to-one transcription on vgmusic.com. I use that number one bullet point up there, that telesplit.
Yeah, and I want to make a concerted effort to like highlight telesplit in particular, because like that was purpose-built basically for this community, right? This
Batsley
is
Adams.
a website that, right, like he is a contributing member of the DoD community, and he is honestly one of my favorite people, and he is just a fucking wizard. Like some of the things that he's created are just like.
And that's coming from you, who is also a wizard.
I am merely an apprentice. So yeah, I just want to I don't really want to I'm not going to demonstrate these quite as in depthly as I have the other ones, because this could maybe be a part 2 for this presentation, for this talk. But I just want to show off telesplit in particular because it is a very useful tool. This is something that was again created by Batsley Adams, who is a member of the DoD community, and again, just complete batshit insane wizard. So he made this web-based tool. So again, platform agnostic, that allows you to import a decent variety of your classic video game formats. They're all listed here. We've got ZX Spectrum, which I never even touched on at all. We've got your Game Boy. You've got your Genesis, PC Engine, and TurboGrafx. Again, I never touched on those at all because I don't really know those tools, but these are all supported by this. And what this tool allows you to do, or this website allows you to do, is import one of these soundtracks. Hopefully those are previewing. Is there a preview option here? I can't tell. But yeah, it allows you to choose the song, to decode audio. It will go through the process. You have a little web-based sampler here that allows you to browse through the song. And you can see here almost like a multi-track exploded view of all the waveforms. But I think most of us here are just going to use this to create a project file, which will generate a zip file, a little zip package that you can just download. And here you have isolated sound channels for your track. You can open these up in whatever tool you want. You can open these up in in just any audio editor or whatever to skip through them and transcribe manually. There's also some tools you can use within Reaper that will allow you to transcribe a little bit easier. I think, what is it called? Reattune. Reattune. That allows you to identify pitches based on audio. You can use that. You can use something like Melodyne to parse these and get notation out of it. Or you can just fall back and use your ears. And having the exploded versions of the track, having the isolated channels, just makes it easier to focus on one individual element of the song without the distraction of all the other parts and whatever craziness is going on in the other channels. So yeah, Telesplit it was literally a creation made for this community for the purposes of aiding video game arrangement, and I have to like shout out Battersea Adams for making a tool that's functional but well thought out and just easy to use. Like, you can do things like if you wanted to like sample an individual bit, you can select whatever channel you want and tell it to if you wanted to sample this that hit there, you could sample that out directly. You can do all kinds of crazy things with this tool. But yeah, again, purpose built for this community, and it's worth showing off.
I don't want to go too crazy into this if it ends up being a complicated thing, but I actually do have set up I have a Reaper template for audio to MIDI. So I like when I use Telesplit, I just drop the files into the Reaper project, and it sends it to tracks that record it as MIDI. I don't have anything prepared.
I was trying to figure out how to do that myself, and I just ended up giving it up and just running it through Melodyne. But if you've got a project file about it, that would be something I would like to poke around with. But I think that should be shared within the community, because like that's.
I've got my template. I don't have like a project file ready to go. Maybe I can think of something that I have.
Again, this can be a part 2 for this conversation. Like, we could do this again, maybe next month, or maybe whenever there's another format where I can offer specific advice for if we ever do like another console themed month again.
Oh, you know what? I'm not gonna have audio, but I just want to. Oh shit! Why is that record? Okay, turn those off. I don't exactly know what's going on in here, but okay, this was from Pictionary month, or no, not Pictionary. Sky Shark, the tornado solos. The big question is, can I figure out how to put this into OBS kind of quickly? I think, okay, let me copy your link.
I can't see anything that's happening on the stream, so I don't know.
No, that's fine. I'm winging it here right now a little bit.
I mean, I've been winging it the entire night, so.
Okay. So this is my Reaper file. Oh, this is going to be funky. I'm trying to figure out how to... It's such a small window that I can see what's being shared on the screen. But I have my template.
I'm trying to watch the stream on my cell phone, so it's like minuscule.
I have my template where these are the audio files that came from Telesplit. I'm not going to bother playing it because I don't have audio coming through on this. But there's, a percussion track, a bass track, and a melody track. And I have those routed to these MIDI channel, like these other tracks that have a reattune on there, which does a send MIDI events when pitch changes. And so what I usually do is I preserve pitch and audio when changing the master play rate, and I slow it down because that allows it to more effectively capture the pitch of the audio. And it records
That's a smart idea.
Records the MIDI. I don't think it's showing the window that I want it to show.
When I was trying to do this, I was trying to do it using just like real-time playback, and I found like the pitch detection was just too flighty. It wasn't actually be able to lock onto anything quick enough to actually try to start it properly. But the idea of changing the playback rate without affecting the pitch and just doing it in slow motion, basically, it's a brilliant idea.
And it's not exact. Like if we like really zoom in here, you can see it doesn't quite match up. One of the things I do before I start doing the MIDI piece is I'll zoom in and I'll try to like, Reaper has a tool that allows you to set the tempo. What I usually do is I just try to start at the beginning of a sound wave, say that's the marker, and this is about one measure off, and I look to see where the audio kicks in again, and I'm going to say that's one measure. So tell me what that tempo is, Reaper. You've got your set project tempo from time selection. And so it's not actually 90 beats per minute, it's 90.141. I wish you had seen the right click menu there. But so that, I mean, that's one of the things is that if you just drop in the telesplit audio without kind of figuring out the tempo before you start recording the MIDI, it's going to screw it up, because if you just drop it in and you change the tempo, it assumes it's 120 or whatever, and it's just going to be a pain in the neck to try to fix the MIDI after that. So I try to calculate the tempo.
So you try to line it up to the grid before you start.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's a quirk of all these old video game formats, because they're all clocked off of typically an oscillator that has, again, no concept of tempo, and they're all running at video game frame rates, again, like 60 frames per second. The tempo values that you get when you play back one of these tunes is never like a straight up integer 120 BPM. It's always like 119.97 whatever. Like the math works out in such a crazy way that you get up with all these fractional tempos, and so reverse engineering it from the audio takes a little bit of finagling to get the audio to always line up. But yeah, like your process of lining it up in the audio stage rather than trying to do it with the MIDI file in post, it makes a lot of sense. But I'm just blown away by the idea of using like time scaling to get the effect that you want. That's one of those like big brain ideas that I would never be able to come up with.
I mean, that's the thing, is like when you have, so this is the thing, is my life is a constant challenge of, I don't know how to do this, so how do I do it? And
so
like I'm not a real. I have plenty of friends. I know anyone who's watching this who's worked with me is screaming at the screen right now, and I appreciate you, but you're wrong. I am not like a real musician, I'm cool with that fact. I'm okay with it.
Neither am I.
I'm a really good faux musician, and most of what I do in DoD is just like tips and tricks and shortcuts to kind of get where I want to go. And like the telesplit, I was like, okay, I have these audio files that are like, this is the audio file. Is there a thing that lets me turn audio to MIDI? I know you can turn MIDI to audio. That's easy. Can you turn audio to MIDI? And because I'm a Reaper fanboy, I just checked out one of those Kenny Joya videos, and he said, "Hi, I'm Kenny Joya, and today I'm going to show you how to use Reaper to record audio to MIDI." And it worked.
it's what I was going to say is like this is a case of you having an idea for what you wanted to do, and you have a certain set of tools in your tool belt already, and finding a way to accomplish what you needed to do with what you had. And the entire point of this was not just like what I was showing you earlier, like all the conversion tools and all that, not meant to show anybody like this is how you have to do it. But no, this is
a tool.
These are this is my presentation is Home Depot or Rona or whatever the stores where you can see the tools that are on display and maybe pick out one for you to use yourself. And
let's say Lowe's instead of Home Depot.
Yeah, I guess Home Depot has its own.
Jeff waded into the into some stuff there. Yeah. On a different note, there's one more thing I wanted to talk about before we call it a night, if you don't mind. Absolutely.
And I want to give a shout out to various people in the community. Very few of these people I know personally at all, and I've barely interacted with any of them. But I've tried to keep track of the names of some of the people in some of the communities that have gone into developing the tools that I was showcasing today, because none of what I'm showing off tonight, for the most part, because I did show off my one little tool, but except for that one janky little Perl script that I wrote, all of this has been made by a broader community of people who have put in the immense knowledge and effort to reverse engineer and interpret these video game formats for the sake of preserving them, for one, but also for documenting them, seeing how they tick, seeing how they run, and also for the benefit of us meager musicians and fake musicians or amateur. We're not real musicians, as we were saying, but for the benefit of all of us, people who are not real musicians, they've given us a way of having insight into this video game music, and I can't thank these people enough for what their efforts and these people and communities. So like I do have a few larger collaborative groups highlighted here. I can't thank them for enough for the efforts that they've put into just making this conversation even a possibility for us. Like
I gotta say, I see all those names. I only know two of them. And I know it's alphabetical, and it's just the luck of the draw. Yeah. But the two names I know are the first two names. So everyone after Batsley, I don't know you, but I love you.
I haven't. I think I've met Rain Warrior once. I think that's the only other person in this list that I've actually met with in person. And a lot of these people, like I see them in Discord and I see them on social media. And I'm a huge fan of their work, but I haven't actually contributed anything really to what they do. But I want to make a point of shouting out at least these people. And I don't know if I got everybody who has made a tool that I've showcased tonight in this list. I apologize if I've missed anybody, but I just wanted to give like a broad, overarching thank you and a shout out to all the people who make these tools and make these things work for us. Because the work that you guys do, I mean, it's I'm sure it's a labor of love, because nobody's making money off of converting SPCs to MIDI, but the passion is appreciated.
That's excellent.
All right, and that's everything that I've got for tonight.
That's a pretty good presentation.
Yeah, I mean, it was not exactly as polished, and I was kind of improvising a lot, and we did kind of run over time. I was kind of hoping to be done, a little bit sooner than now.
No, but, this was a DoD Twitch stream that is clocking in. Okay, with the pre-show, we're at the 2-hour mark. That's phenomenal. That's great. If this had been another 45 minutes, I'd be like, maybe we could have trimmed a little bit, but I think you nailed all the things. So Nintendo 64 blew my mind. The NES stuff was like a really good precursor. The Genesis was super cool just to see how janky it is, and you did have a chance to show us the DS, which was like, that is the thing I wanted to make sure people saw this month, and very importantly have this weekend to play with. If there's any process in terms of just getting VGM trans set up on your computer, getting into your workflow. Jeff, you're about to be off the grid for a bit, so you probably, if anyone's like, hey, I tried VGM Trans, it's not working, Jeff, what do I do? And you're like,
yeah, sorry.
Rip, sorry.
I'm actually going camping.
That's
so
good.
I'll be off the grid as of tomorrow afternoon. But
get your questions in the next 18 hours, folks. He is certainly going to be able to answer everyone in detail. He's not going to be preparing for a camping trip with his family. So that's the JMR guarantee. He will answer every question as long as you get it in the next 18 hours. Did I get that right?
Much. Yeah, that's accurate.
More or less. Jeff, thank you so much for coming. I know we've been talking about this for a while, and I know you said we could probably do 5 more of these just because we're scratching the surface, but
barely, yeah. So just I'll switch back to my other view for a second. Just scratching the surface, talking about different tools, things like that. This is a just one individual person's contribution to all of this. Someone has gone through and done some of these more obscure formats. So if you ever wanted to decode the music for Cotton for the Sega System 16B to MIDI, this person has written a specific tool for that. If you ever wanted to do the NES Hummer Team Pirates like Somari, and convert that to MIDI, this person has done. These tools are a little bit less polished. A lot of these are not even compiled, they're just available as source code. But yeah, if you wanted to do a nerdy deep dive, we need to get Valley Bell onto the call and just get them to show off all of the crazy work, because they honestly, a lot of the work I've been showing off today has been built off of what is in that source code repository there. So yeah, if you wanted to do a really deep dive, we could, and there's other tangents we can go on too. So yeah, we could easily, if there's interest, do maybe a part 2, or I don't know, getting a third one. And this might be a bit of a stretch, but
we'll make it work. But this was so cool, and not only is it fun to have this tonight, but we're gonna have this VOD up on YouTube, so it is enshrined in the pantheon of DoD production resources forever and ever.
And I've also put together a Google Doc that has all of the tools that I've showcased tonight and more.
I'll add that link in the YouTube link, the YouTube description.
Yeah, please do.
And you know what? Just because I love doing things, I'll even put in the timestamps in YouTube for the different systems.
That's not a bad idea too. Actually,
it's such a good idea.
When the video gets published too, I could maybe add links to the document that shows.
Jeff.
That goes to the YouTube. Yeah, let's
JMR above and beyond.
Synergy. Let's merge these together. No, I probably won't be able to get to it until after I'm back from my camping trip. But
no, you can do it in the next 18 hours. I believe in you, Jeff. I believe in you.
Is the video going to be up on YouTube before tomorrow midday?
Probably. I usually publish these things right after.
Okay, so maybe I could get some of it done. Maybe.
To be clear, I am actually kidding. You should enjoy your camping trip, your time off. Be with your family, do your stuff. I love DoD.
Check my phone to a hotspot, and there's just
Jeff's just there, in the Adirondacks or wherever the hell, and he's just I need a signal because Mike is asking me for stuff. My screen's my video's frozen, but imagine I'm making funny faces and gestures as I'm talking right now. Jeff, you got anything else for us? Do you have anything that you want to share, projects you have in the works or stuff you wanna hype train, anything like that?
Things have been quiet in terms of my creative output as of late. We had a few maybe aborted DoD entries for the band for martial art that didn't quite make it. So maybe you'll see those in a future month, or maybe a free month where we can have a leftover that's clearly from another themed month being submitted.
I don't know if you noticed,
no one ever
I
does
am
that.
wearing my martial arts shirt today. I wasn't even thinking that I was going to be talking with a member of martial art. I was just like,
I
what's a VGM
notice
shirt
it.
I haven't worn in a while on stream?
I didn't notice because I hadn't been checking. I have no visibility to what you're doing unless I call up the stream on my phone.
Yeah. Well,
But-
I mean,
but,
it's the body art. It brings out my baby blue eyes. So,
I love the feel of those shirts.
no, they feel really nice. That's it. It's just delightful, and it makes me feel like I'm close to you.
Oh, thank you. Speaking of shirts, I wore this one. This is my all-time favorite video
That
game
is.
music shirt. I think there's only 3 of them that exist. It's me, Mustin, and Grant Henry Stemage who made this shirt. I think it's only 3 of us who have this one. And
It's a
my
perfect
all-time-
shirt. It is.
Oh, it perfectly describes my relationship with all of the music that we've talked about tonight and all the music I've ever covered. Like I
That
barely
could
play video games, but but I love the music.
that could easily be on the DoD family crest because there's so many games. Like I didn't have a Super Nintendo growing up, but here I am loving the
Yeah.
Super Metroid and Link to the Past and Chrono Trigger and yeah, Final Fantasy 4 and 6. I know I rag on them and say no, it's not eligible this month. Stop trying to cover Final Fantasy and Chrono Trigger because we've done it so many times, but I fucking love the music.
Yeah.
I never played it.
Uh,
Love the music though.
honestly, like my exposure to a lot of these great games and great soundtracks was through their music. Like I think I had heard Chrono Trigger covered like more times than I can count before
Yeah.
I had ever played the game. Like I think our band, like I think we had 2 martial art Chrono Trigger covers under our belt before I played the game. Like
I can easily say most of the games that I've covered in DoD I haven't actually played.
yeah.
I'll
Same.
double check that,
I mean,
but I'm
there's-
really confident in that assessment.
there are obvious exceptions, but like if I look at what things like martial art has done and what I've done individually, like yeah, like maybe 10% of what I've covered or what we covered as a band I've played. Like 10% might be an overestimate. So
And how do you count it if you hear it in DoD or another VGM community first, and then you're like, oh, this music's really cool. I should play the game.
oh, I mean that's why I played Chrono Trigger.
Yeah.
Like I heard so many covers of it, like Terra and Black all those many years ago, and
I used to think Terra was actually the name of the overworld music because it was covered so often, and Terra
Yeah.
means Earth, and I was like, that just makes sense.
yeah,
And then Jackie was like,
And
no, it's a
no-
character. I was like,
no concept of what music is in context, no concept of any of that. It's just good music. So
yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So yeah, I guess if you want to check out anything I've done lately, just go to the Martial Art Bandcamp. I don't know if you can put that in the Twitch chat or whatever.
Do you have a link?
Yeah, it's martialart.band. And the latest thing that we've done is a live album. So we basically recorded the greatest DoD entries of martial art as a band and martial arts solo members as a live concert at MagFest. For the most part, like all but 2 of these songs, all but 3 of these songs were all DoD entries that we rearranged for the live band.
Oh, I'm looking at this
and-
track list. Oh my god. So, I mean, Triangular. I mean, Shizzy's no, Chromelodian.
Oh yeah.
I have to say, like, the moment that I felt like I was a member of the Shiz was in the basement of the Unitarian Church in Philadelphia with Chromelodian playing, and we got everybody, like, you know, linked arms in a circle, and we were just fucking dancing to Triangular. Like, Triangular as a song is the be-all, end-all. There is nothing that tops it. And when I saw martial art doing that at MagFest this past year, I was like, I could literally die now, and you know, I did what I needed to. What are you doing? You're gonna go.
Is this the show?
2007? Probably.
So if I go to the ending of this video, yeah, if you were there, and like, there's like about 10 minutes of people milling around in the crowd, so I actually probably should look for you now.
Oh God, put that link in the chat.
Let's see if I can. Turn the computers here. I'm not even decided yet on the PC, so I'll put it to you in Discord later. I'm not even decided yet on the PC, so I'll put it to you in Discord later. Yeah. Talking about things that led to us coming to video games and exploring video game music. Like, discovering this band was hugely important for me. So. Anyway, on that note, probably sign off for the night.
All right.
Thanks for putting all this together. Thanks for coordinating all this for us.
Thank you. This has been incredible.
Thanks for prodding me and poking me into doing it, finally.
I mean, I don't know how much you make it sound like I was really, behind you with a whip or something. You've been pretty ready to go for a while. I was just like, is this a good time?
That's the thing. Not really. Like, things. I think I pitched the idea to you like months ago, saying, hey, maybe I can do this eventually, and you saying, hey, can you maybe do this for DS month? And I'm like, okay. That kind of lit a fire under my ass and actually got me to put all the material together.
Yeah.
So
everything always works out for the best. That's my motto.
All right, I need to get some sleep. So,
I do too. Thank you so much.
Thanks to everybody who tuned in. I see a lot of the I didn't get to pay attention to the chat that much, but I see a lot of familiar names and faces in the chat. I just want to say thanks to everybody for showing up. I see Triple V in there. I see Corey was there. Sigma. A lot of good friends. So just thanks to everybody for tuning in.
Friends and loved ones.
Friends and loved ones, and not so many enemies.
Not so many enemies. I have to do that host thing that I always forget to do. We've got a week from tomorrow, Friday, June 13th, we've got an album release party with the man PF. A week after that, this hasn't even been put up an announcement yet, so we don't have a time, but we're going to do another banner artist interview with Paige Izzle, who did the DS banner art this month. And then I can tentatively say everyone's favorite DoD host, Austin, aka Catagen, is going to be giving us that listening party at the end of the month for DS on Friday, June 27th. And cue him messaging me like, dude, I told you not to say I'm going to do it. I'm not sure yet. Don't hold me to it. Maybe he'll do it. Maybe he won't. But this has been Dwelling of Friends. Good night, everybody.
Good night.